What's up, people? It's Chris Angel and Aaron Hendon coming at you. Another
Woo-hoo,
episode, Aaron, of the Mindful
woo-hoo.
CEO. Let's be mindful today about the distinguishing distinctions versus understanding something, knowing something.
Yeah, I was talking about it because I find that it comes up for people on my team, people in the group. Um, we understand. I think you don't actually interact with me very often. I don't think a lot of people in my circle don't understand that meditation is useful. I don't know.
They don't understand that meditation
I
is
don't
useful.
think a lot of people don't think it's useful. I think the vast majority of people understand it.
Yes, right.
As useful. And I was thinking about the difference between understanding something and being something. The difference between knowing something, and they always used to say in the forum that if you understand the forum, if you understand this, it's the booby prize that and we're geared to understand stuff. I mean, my God, everyone is trying to figure everything out. I mean, that's just
right.
the coin of the realm is I don't understand. And why are we, I mean, but really, what is the value really? I mean, on one hand, okay, understanding something, it's useful from a scientific standpoint for sure, from, getting to the source of something, understanding something, but understanding never created action.
Sure.
You don't need to know what to do something. We're completely constrained and limited by the need to figure it out.
Sure. And sometimes figuring it out can be a distraction, like using meditation as an example. Like, I'm going to read a book about meditation and I'm going to watch a ton of YouTube videos about meditation, but the actual practicing of it in my life is a different thing.
Totally.
And I don't need to understand the 10 points to meditation in order to meditate.
Right. And understanding them buys you nothing.
Yeah.
Understanding them gets you nothing. It's not an access to anything. And so there's the as lived phenomena. There's the phenomena that are as lived,
What's that as lived?
Well, I mean, the difference between understanding love and having the experience of love.
Yeah.
When you're actually in the presence of love, there's no, that's, I think, the thing. I always think of Shakespeare in that context. Like, okay, the thing that makes Shakespeare so potent is the unbelievable ability to communicate the experience of love in language, through language, to leave you in the presence of love by using language is a freaky thing to be able to do, because they're not really connected in some direct way. It's very difficult to get words to bring forth the experience. I mean, I think it's why we love art the way we love art, is that it brings they're using language as a vehicle to bring forth an experience. And I think that's radically difficult to do. I mean, amazing. I mean, that's why the general population of artists is so limited compared to the general population, because there's an access there to bring forth an experience from a different medium than life. I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, I mean, what's there for me about it is, if I'm thinking of a mindful CEO, I'm thinking about those of us in business who are wanting to do business in a mindful way, and maybe there's social impact involved. Like, it's one thing to try to understand the impact we want to make, or understand how to build this business. And I think for me, for 20 years, trying to understand business was a distraction to leaning into my heart and getting present to what was my soul inviting me to do.
Well, I think we're dancing on the edge also here of the difference between execution and ideation.
Sure.
That understanding is all in the domain of ideation.
Yeah.
That's, where we can, that's getting ready to get ready. Someone sent me this thing where, getting ready to do the thing is not doing the thing. Thinking about doing the thing is not the thing. It's a meme. It's a TikTok. I forget who it is that's saying it, but it's listing off all these things that are not doing the thing. Right. Thinking about doing the thing, talking about doing the thing, getting ready to do the thing, preparing to do the thing, reading about how you could do the thing, all not doing the thing. That's the line between ideation and execution. And that's the line, I think, between understanding and distinguishing. And I think that the thing for me that I'm discovering for myself is that there's a certain amount of pain that comes with distinguishing. It's certainly either physical pain or intellectual pain that is required to pass through the space between distinguishing and not distinguishing. And I think we're pain avoidance mechanisms in a lot of ways, that we are comfort seeking. And but anything that, I mean, the metaphor, ready for metaphor land. We're taking a trip to metaphor land. This is really metaphor land. Someone should write in and tell us the difference between a metaphor and an analogy. Because I don't know the difference. But when you learn balance, we were talking about you either have kids and have taught them to walk, watch them learn to walk, or you were a kid, right? Even if you don't have kids, you were a kid and you learned how to walk. And you could be both. You could actually just, I know Alan Kahn is listening and thinking, I could be both. I know, Alan, you could be both. You ever do that? Have a conversation with someone in your head, like you, and then you put it on a loudspeaker on your podcast. It's weird. Okay, you should try it. When we learned how to walk, we distinguished learning how to walk. What we distinguished was not walking. What we distinguished was, this thing is not falling down. This is what it looks like to not fall down. This is what it is to not fall down. This is the as-lived experience of not falling down. And we had to go through the space of falling down over and over and over and over and over. And, a lot of different things we could do a deep dive on that. Right. But at the surface level, you fell the exact number of times you needed to fall until you personally distinguished what it is to not fall. And you went through that pain of distinguishing falling from not falling. Up until then, you only had falling. There was no, you weren't going to do it. And then you were a walker. All of a sudden, you're a walker. And, then time goes on and you have this thing called balance in terms of, and what you do with balance is you walk. Right. Yeah. And then you grow over time and you decide that it's now time to take that thing called balance, which you've distinguished, and what you do with it is walking, but you now want to go ride a bike. So you have the basics of not falling, but you don't have any, that doesn't give you the access called riding a bike yet. There's a whole new growth that needs to happen and a whole new set of pain that one must go through. And you must go through it. There is no alternative to going through it. If you want the balance, if you want to use balance to now elevate your performance and ride a bike, it's a new set of pain. And you distinguish not falling again. In that context, and now you're a bike rider and you can walk and you can bike ride, but you could also do that with surfing or skiing or dancing or ice skating, and all of those things have balance to a new level and have a certain amount of pain that's associated with it. And dancing doesn't usually come with a lot of physical pain. I mean, it depends. I mean, if you're talking about ballet, it's a lot of physical pain. But otherwise it's mostly, in my case, just psychological pain of being embarrassed that I look the way I look when I dance. But either way, you've got to go through that awkward, this isn't right. I don't know these steps. I don't know how to do this. Right. And I think we avoid that. I think we are out to avoid the pain of distinguishing something, of what it takes to actually go through the work so that and then I don't think about balance anymore. And it takes a decent amount of alcohol to get me so that balance is no longer functioning. Right. Like it takes a whole bunch of chemical inducement to get me to no longer be able to do it. But it's something you just are now. You've distinguished it. You don't, and if you never ride a bike, if you rode a bike when you were 8 and it took you 15, 20 years to get back on a bike, you could still do it.
Yeah.
Because you distinguished it. You didn't understand it. You don't know the mass, velocity, momentum, quantum physics level of understanding balance in any way, nor would it make any difference.
Yeah. I think part of what's there for me as you say that is the that when you're a kid and what you want to walk, and so I think that's important, because I think we get older and we turn to adults, and we sometimes don't know what we want. And then we have a lot of obligation bearing down that says, I need to understand it to do it. But for me, when I started to tune into what I really wanted to do in my work, and I was listening not to my intellect and not Gary Vee and not what Lamborghini leaner said, like not what culture said I should want, but what I started to really listen to myself about what I wanted, that the falling, it may have some pain to it, but it's not the same. It's not embarrassment for me. It's just, I want that. And I'm not, it might be frustration that I'm not there yet, but it's a different experience for me on this side of knowing what I want and then distinguishing, not falling on my way there, compared to when I would say what I wanted was financial freedom, or what I wanted was to be a real estate investor. What I wanted was all these things I read about in books that was not the whole of it. That was not the true of it. So I'm getting that, like, I think there's a lot of people in business who are in business like I was because they want to be financially free or they want to be whatever, but that's like a good idea, not like what your soul is inviting you to. Those are different.
Yeah. And so what's the connection between that and distinguishing that you're making?
Well, just that there's a lot of people in business who are going to keep falling and have the pain of falling, and it's going to continue to be painful until they find what it is they really want to do. Because you're just going to repeat, you're going to be like, I want to walk. And then before you complete walking, you're like, never mind, I don't want to walk. I want to ride a bike. And then you change gears and pick a different target. And you're like, no, never mind, I don't want to ride a bike. I want to be an ice dancer. There's just people who are not pointed in the direction of the thing they really want to do. And so I don't know that I think we'll constantly be distracted by wanting to understand things versus having the resolve to keep going towards the thing we actually want.
Yeah, I hear you. I think the way I think about that is, when the vision, when your calling is strong enough, then you're willing to, you want to be a walker. You want to get that handled, right? And because you're committed to fulfilling something that matters to you, that's what you're saying. Yeah,
it's cathedrals. I mean, we're back to the metaphor land of cathedrals. It's chipping stone versus building a cathedral.
Yeah, and you'll learn how to master the chisel and the hammer if what you're committed to is honoring some idea that's big enough to have you honor it, and you'll master those things. But that's, stonemasons in that context, the people that, actually do build cathedrals, that's not that's years and years and years and years of practice, not study. I mean, probably some study, but
Yeah.
mostly time with the chisel.
Yeah.
10,000 hours. And that connects back to, if what you want strong enough.
Hmm.
And boy, there's just a whole world in there, Chris. Some, you don't wind up with people that choose not to walk.
Right.
Right. You just don't. You don't wind up with little kids that go, I'm not going to fucking do this. I like being carried. Have you seen me fall on my ass a million times? I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And you don't find parents that are like, forget it.
Right. Right. Right.
You failed at that too much. When are you going to just deal with, you're not a walker? No, those never happen. Never happen. That's just, never happen.
Yeah.
Because the environment, the human environment for mobility, for walking, right? Obviously, people that have limited use of their legs excluded from this conversation, not what I'm talking about.
Right.
But the environment is full of walkers.
Yeah.
Which speaks to, do you have a community around you that calls you to be who you're committed to being? Or are you like, a fish committed to walking? Right? There's no one in the fish community that's like, yeah, you should be walking.
Right. Right.
Right? No one's like, yeah, you should evolve. Right? Go check out land. No one, that evolution, right, from water to land, that was like, a radical space. So, can you create an environment of people and a community? That's a little bit about, I think that speaks to what I'm committed to building here.
Yeah.
Is a community of people that are calling, that are like, no, we walk here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We, and in this context, no, we practice mindfulness here.
Mm-hmm.
We take 10 minutes a day and we sit, or an hour a week or whatever, like the practice. We could get into what the practice is, but I know people go through pain in, first of all, in breaking their schedule down so that they could take 10 minutes to do nothing.
Right.
That's a pain. That's an amount of pain needed to just even stop my days and sit. On days like this, where, I worked out in the morning, I literally have to stop my day to do it. And there is a pain in doing that. I don't find that to be easy or comfortable. It's irritating and annoying, and I don't like it. And many times, frankly, I just blow it off. Right. I mean, I lead my 10-minute gratitude in the morning, and then I call that my day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, part of that is, I don't have the environment set up around me. So there's that pain. And then there's the pain that I don't experience anymore, but I certainly did. And I know people do, of quieting the mind.
Yeah.
And the pain of being with the thoughts, and the pain of intentionally practicing non-judgment. Mm-hmm. It's funny that comes with pain, but that does come with a certain amount of, practice is required to do that, because we are by default constantly judging, and mostly judging ourselves as inadequate, mostly.
Yeah.
And everything's wrong, and to bring non-judgment to it takes the breaking of a habit. And that I'm calling that pain for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting phenomenon about the other thing about creating an environment that calls you to be who you're committed to being.
Yeah. And I would add specifically the mindful CEO bit, like that there is I feel like who we're talking to are people that have said, I want to have a business that makes an impact. I want to have a business that goes beyond a transaction and pays something forward in the world. And I think that in itself is its own journey. Like it's, we're using the analogy or the metaphor about kids and walking or riding bikes when we were younger and didn't know any different. And we're just like, I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
When we become adults, I think we our intellect kicks in. And it's not just as simple as like, I'm going to walk or I'm going to ride a bike. There's all of this chatter, all of this like confusion. What do I want? What don't I want? How do I build this? How am I going to do this? And there's I think it gets harder to distinguish, to move forward in not this, not this, not this, in order to get what it is. So there's a lot of getting ready to get ready. There's a lot of people who are reading books and trying to understand it. How do I build a business? How do I do whatever? Let me watch another 10 or 100 YouTube videos. Maybe that will give me the angle or the edge I need to really then understand it, to do it. And I guess what I'm it's a question, and I guess that I'm posing, which is, how do you get to the act of distinguishing your work, your cathedral, your thing, and get beyond, trying to understand it from a YouTube video or a journal entry or a.
Well, that's why we have the calling workshop, for sure, is to get that, create a pathway for that, and that's a reliable hour and a half of, distinguishing, the beginning of something, like, what's this?
Mhm.
Let's see, I just said distinguishing something, but I want to make sure that's the word I mean.
But you do distinguish it in the
Yeah,
workshop.
you
There is an
do.
opportunity for you to
That's
find
right.
something personal.
Yeah, and then and that takes whatever effort it takes, and maybe we can change pain to be effort.
Sure.
It takes whatever effort it takes, but then it takes and we're talking about this today, but the mind-numbing boredom of success, like the mind-numbing, just sort of,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to sharpen the axe here. I'm gonna have to sharpen my chisel. I'm gonna have to, you think about a block of marble turning into David.
Yeah.
And there's a massive amount of mind-numbing boredom, boring work in that. I mean, it's just like, the ability to chip teeny little bits away. First of all, the vision to be able to see David,
Yeah.
and then, but the real no shit, besides just the work of sharpening the chisels, besides the work of all the stuff around it, the sweeping and the cleaning and the polishing and all that work, it's mind-numbingly boring. There's nothing about it that's thrilling in some way. There's a massive amount of work, boring, detailed, repetitive, over and over and over and over and over work. Like John Coltrane used to run scales 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's John Coltrane. Scales, 8 hours. People that master their craft put the time into the background of those things. So the calling workshop is an opportunity to put create something out here, like, oh yeah, but then it's going to take the time to refine it, and the as lived phenomenon of it. Like, okay, right, I didn't get agency as my calling, and it's still something that I'm refining for myself, and I'm still looking at other ways to say it and speak it and look to see, because that's matters to me, that I have something I can say my life is for. It matters to me that I can have something I say my life is for. And that may not matter to everybody. People maybe, I have friends that are perfectly, for them, where they're at in their path is, I'm cool. I don't need, my life is for doing what I'm doing now tomorrow. And maybe I get to be a little bit better at it tomorrow. And I don't have any level of derision or, about that if that's authentically their deal, then that's their deal. That's not my deal. And I don't think that's your deal. That's why we're connected. And I think people listening have a deal where it's, I really would like to have my life make a contribution outside of my immediate level of concern.
Yeah.
And I just don't want that to be judged as better or worse or any of that stuff.
No, but to those who are searching for that sense of meaning, I mean, this message, this podcast, this thing we're doing, this collaboration we're up to is really for those who are saying, I want a grander sense of purpose and mission and clarity about what I say my work is for. So the other people that are fine with whatever they're doing aren't even a part of this conversation. This conversation is not even for them. This is for people who are like, I know there's more in here, and I want to surround myself with others who are asking similar questions on a similar path, and get whatever reflection I can from them so that I can sharpen my chisel. I can sharpen my my practices to fulfill that feeling that I have, that I, to whatever degree I have words for. There's something more in here. And, that's what this is. That's what this whole thing is for. The Mindful CEO, the whole thing is to walk that home,
And that is the distinguishing and the fulfillment of something that matters.
Yeah.
To you. I mean,
to each of us. And it won't ever be done. It's never done. So that's why we walk it home, because it's a journey. And I'm walking mine home and you're walking yours home, and together it feels good to be in the presence of others working on themselves that way.
Yeah, and I think that provides the clearing or the community of walkers that we were talking about. That becomes then, okay, well, we are all walking here, walking us home, right? That's where we're walking, right? And it's just easier when you get on that, you got other people along the path with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about, I think that's all I really wanted to say about distinguishing, is that it's different than knowing something, and there's definitely a level of effort and most likely a level of pain to go through, and I think we settle for understanding all the time, or thinking that even understanding is where you want to be.
Right. Yeah. The only thing I want to add, which I think we've already said, but it's still in my space, is that if you don't, if you're not asking the questions about the cathedral thing, like what is the work? What's the thing I want to do? What's the contribution I want to make? If you're not getting that distinguished for yourself, I know from my own experience, very easy to be pulled into the popular, trendy, this is what I should be doing. So we think the work is posting 100 social posts a day, and then we get sidetracked into doing the psychological pain of posting 100 posts a day, and that may actually not be the thing. I mean, it's not to say you couldn't use the skills you built of doing 100 posts a day, but the actual work, if we can ask a better question, which is what the workshop does. I think the workshop just asks a better question to get you distinguished on your cathedral, the thing you want to do with your life. Then the hours you spend, the 10,000 hours you spend, are actually in a direction, not a destination, but in a direction towards the thing you say you're committed to, versus saying, I want to be mindful, but I don't know what to be mindful about. And so I guess Gary Vee has my answer. I'm going to go do 100 posts a day. And that would be maybe off track.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's I don't know that I was going to say, I think that's confusing the map for the territory, but I think it's more like you don't have a clear destination, and so you're going to move really quickly in a direction, right? Like 100 posts a day is an activity, but it's not but where are you going with that? Until you answer the question, where am I going with that? What is there even to post?
That's right. That's my point.
Right. So taking the time to distinguish and then make that lifelong commitment to refine it
Yeah.
is what's your cathedral in honor of.
Yeah. That's right.
Right. And distinguishing that is where any of this, the rest of this starts. And then mindfulness then becomes a way of sharpening the chisel and clarifying that and doing all that. Then everything else that you do becomes, oh, okay, this is, I can have that live inside the cathedral of, in my case, agency. That's the way that
I love that the way you just said that is because then mindfulness becomes in service of the cathedral. It becomes in service. It's not this thing we just sit in lotus pose to stop our thoughts. It actually becomes a practice that supports the thing we say we're committed to. And I think for a long time, I kind of had mindfulness and meditation as this thing that sounds good. Like you said, like people understand that meditation is a good thing. Oh yeah, meditation, right? That's cool. But without a direction, without a true north, we kind of don't know what to do with mindfulness. We're like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'll meditate.
This goes back to that conversation we were having about intention too. One of the mindfulness instructors I listen to all the time her name is Tara Brach, and she's wonderful. And she starts with, always, what's your intention of sitting today? And, that's, there's certainly an element of paradox in that for me that, that's my intention is how does that jive up with non-striving? And we've had this before. We've had this conversation before, right? So the inherent, the instant is like, uh-oh, right? Like intention, that's going to mean I'm going to now have to go for it versus no, what are you clearing for? What are you creating as an intention for today? And that there's, even if your cathedral is enlightenment, then you would be sitting, meditation would be a tool for that. It's not an end unto itself, although there's no place to get to. It's, I think the important part, and I think we forget this is one of the big things that people, my experience in working with thousands of people, is that we forget that we're the ones making it up. That we're the, when you're saying, what's your cathedral in honor of, you're the one who gets to say.
Yeah.
It's not the truth.
Right.
It's, you get to say, this is what matters. This is what matters. I'm saying it. Why does this matter? Because I said so. And then everything starts to fall in line with, okay, well, that's what I said my life was for. This is the shot I called. And it takes you out of the seeking mode. I got to find the answer, and puts you in the creative mode. I could say anything and have it be the answer. Right. As long as I got committed to it, I could say anything, and then let's go. And then I think the funny thing is that my experience of that is that once you really do say what the answer is, I think everyone winds up in the same place. Right. I think when people get to say what their lives are for, everyone winds up in the same sort of space of abundance, love, joy, freedom, full self-expression, agency, power. Everyone winds up down that road. I don't know. Right. But you get to say, and you get to say your flavor and your expression, and be worthwhile to write this down and have this be a conversation for next time. But Ikigai came across my screen recently as a distinction, and I'd love to dive into Ikigai because I think it's the next. I think it's related to what we're talking about.
I love Ikigai.
Right.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Good.
I think we should stop this here and then bring up Ikigai next week. Cliffhanger.
Stay tuned.
Don't know what Ikigai is. You'll find out next week.
Yeah, and good. If you want to learn more about our workshop and the Mindful CEO community, you can go to themindfulceo.com. There's THE, themindfulceo.com. Click on the appropriate links, get around, and we'll follow up from there. So,
great.
Aaron, thanks for another one. We'll see you next time for some Ikigai.
Deuce.
Peace.